We're
Good
live,
evening.
Mayor.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Opa-locka regular commission meeting in response to the COVID-19 and its all essence of caution to ensure the safety of public safety of all those in the City of Opa-locka. We have decided to follow the governor's orders and ensure that we do a virtual meeting. Madam Attorney, could you please state for the record the procedures that govern this virtual commission meeting? We have to unmute you. All right. You can start, Madam Attorney.
I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioners and Mayor, pursuant to Executive Order number 20-69 issued by the Office of Governor Ron DeSantis on March the 20th, 2020, municipalities may conduct meetings of their governing boards without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 subparagraph 5B2 Florida statutes. The members of the City Commission appearing remotely for this meeting are Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Kelly, and Mayor Pygott. An opportunity was given to the public to address the city clerk prior to the commission meeting with any questions, comments, and concerns. As of 7 o'clock tonight, no meeting participation was requested. However, the clerk will verify that under the City Commission public participation section of this agenda. This meeting is being live streamed at www.youtube.com user City of Opa-locka. And Mr. Mayor, I will turn the meeting back over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Attorney. Now we shall begin the meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Bass. I'm sorry, Commissioner Bass.
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Burke.
Here.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Present.
Mayor Pygott.
I'm here. Commissioner Bass, could you lead us in invocation?
Sure. Father, we thank you again. We thank you for life, strength, and health. We thank you, Lord God, for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We thank you, Father God, for protection of our city. We thank you for protection of our loved ones, God. Help us, oh God, to govern ourselves accordingly. And Lord God, help us all, Lord God, to be safe during this epidemic. Bless our city. Help us, oh God, to just be fervent in our prayer, Lord, that you would hear and answer us. Bless our city and our employees in Jesus' name. Amen.
Commissioner Burke, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Madam Clerk, do we have any awards, proclamations, or acknowledgements?
No, Mr. Mayor, we don't have any at this time.
All right. Moving on to the approval of the consent agenda. Do I have any pulls, deletions, or deferrals? All right. I would like to pull item number 13-2. Madam Attorney, do you have that?
Yes, sir.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda and pull
Move
list?
it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Burke. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yes.
Commissioner Bass.
yes.
Commissioner Burke.
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, Madam Attorney, we have a add-on.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you want to read into the record and we get a vote to add it on and state the emergency nature of this add-on?
I think the clerk normally reads it in. I need to get it off of the computer in order to read. I didn't have it up yet because the clerk normally reads the add-ons into the record.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we have an amendment to the agenda under public presentations to add a presentation by Jessica Garrett Mockins. She's the president of Hip Rockstar. I apologize. And that's to be included under public presentations. We also have an add-on resolution under new items 14.1. That would be a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into an emergency agreement with Hip Rockstar LLC for public relations and marketing services in an amount not to exceed $15,000 and as set forth in Exhibit A, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This item is sponsored by the city manager.
All right, do we have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bass. Mr. Manager, could you state for the record the emergency nature of this item?
After reviewing city operations and looking at the outcomes of COVID-19, mainly Opa-locka having one of the highest positive infection rates of COVID-19, it's advisable that we bring in an individual to assist us with our messaging for our community, for our residents, and the people that we serve, in order to ensure we have consistent messaging throughout the city, as well as coming up with a media and public relations plan and dealing with COVID-19 in general.
All right, do you have any discussion to add this item on to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly?
thank you. I just want to say for the record, I don't think this meets that criteria. I appreciate the manager's explanation, but I don't think it fits that criteria, but I appreciate his response. Thank you.
Okay. All right, hearing no other discussion to add this item on, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
No.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
No.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
Yes.
Motion fails on the amendment.
All right, so this item will not be added on to the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Burke,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk, roll call.
I'm sorry, I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Does the amendment also include the public presentation portion of that?
No, right now we're voting on the approval of the agenda. So I will bring up a motion to oh, you're right. You need to amend the agenda. You're correct.
I mean, there was two items that I mentioned. Was under public presentations, the presentation by the individual. And then the other one was the actual add-on item, which is the resolution.
Okay.
Was the vote for both or?
Vote was for the add-on item. So I would like to get a motion to amend the agenda to allow for a public presentation from Hip Rockstar in regards to the public relation needs of the city of Opa-locka. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis. All right. Madam Attorney, can I second this motion?
Yes, you can, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I will second this motion for the public presentation. Any discussion on the motion? All right, I would like to make sure that at the very least we hear from Ms. Mockins and Hip Rockstar and also the manager. As you all know, we have one of the highest rates of COVID-19 in the state of Florida. And earlier this year, during a time where there was a
Man, are we voting to add this on? If we're voting to add this on, let's vote it up or down. That's all. You can save that you can save that for when it's your time. Come on, man.
We need to vote this up or down. That's all. We don't need all of that.
Commissioner Burke, please respect the decorum of the
Respect
meeting.
the decorum. You respect the decorum. We don't need all of that. Just vote it up or down. We know the situation.
Commissioner Burke, as a duly elected person, representative of the city of Opa-locka, on all motions, anyone has the ability to be able to speak.
No, only you have the ability to speak.
On the floor.
When it's something you're trying to push, and I'm tired of it. Now we voted. Let's vote it up or down. We know the situation. We know the situation. Please, let's not get started with that tonight. Let's do what we came here to do and get over with it. Thank you.
As I said, in terms of this item, I have the ability, and everyone has the ability to speak. We just gave the ability for everyone to speak on the motion to add on. And now we're talking about the motion to amend the agenda in regards to the public presentation. So I will continue my my address in terms of this. In regards, as I said earlier this year, with the manager, when it comes to the dissolution of the city, we proposed and passed a resolution to request a public relations RFP because we found that we did not have someone within the city that can communicate our message and our position as a city on various matters, and also to do basic public relations when it comes to our emails, social media, and a few other things. So since that time, that was at the time we received a letter from the State Oversight Board that requested that we have more conversation about this with the Financial Oversight Board. And at the time, it kind of paused when COVID-19 struck the city, and we started to see that we were not receiving or getting out a clear message to the community. I spoke with the manager about the need of it, and also I called up the Chief Inspector General and relayed a concern that we have one of the highest rates of COVID-19 within the city of Opa-locka, and we need assistance with messaging. This was based upon when I reviewed the data. I gave a call to our county commissioners, the mayor's office, county mayor's office, and also the mayor's coalition. And one of the things that they continue to express to myself and to the city is that we need to get the message out to our people to implement social distancing and mask wearing. And relaying that information to the manager and to the Chief Inspector General. They both believe that there was a serious need for this within the city of Opa-locka. And now we have this public presentation from someone that can help us and guide us and more understanding of this public presentation, public relations. So I strongly encourage my colleagues to give us an opportunity to hear how we can develop and communicate our message and as a government in responding to one of the greatest crises in the history of the city of Opa-locka and the history of this country. So I think it's very important that we take the time to address this. So are there any other discussion on this item or on this motion? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke,
Because I unmuted you, Commissioner Burke.
No.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
No.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott,
Yes.
Madam Attorney,
So does the motion pass or fail, Madam Clerk?
I was trying to get clarification from the city attorney. I'm not hearing her though, if it's okay to ask her a question.
I can hear you.
So under public presentation, does the same rule apply to fourth, fifth vote for the add-on?
I think we talked about earlier that this would be an add-on to the commission agenda since you didn't have any public participation previously.
Yes.
And if there is a majority voting to add the presentation, then you have the presentation.
All right.
Okay, so it just requires the majority, not the fourth, fifth.
No, ma'am. And tell me what you're relying on specifically for the fourth, fifth.
Well, in our code, it requires 4/5 of a vote to amend the agenda. And that's why the resolution, the previous resolution failed, even though it was 3-2, it didn't receive the 4/5. So does that also apply the same rule to public presentation? It is amending the agenda.
It would be amending the agenda, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. That
So,
would be
Mr.
correct.
Mayor, motion fails.
All right, so we will not hear an item, nor will we hear a public presentation in regards to helping with the messaging for the city of Opa-locka. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move
Move
it.
it.
All right, moved
Second.
by Vice Mayor Davis, second by Commissioner Bass.
Mr. Mayor,
Roll call.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
just use on discussion. I would hope in the future that there's a better clarification because we did 3 things that we should not have done, in my opinion. When this was first presented, it was presented by the clerk with the presentation and the add-on. We've somehow or another separated all 3 when that should not have occurred. And I'm really disturbed by that. I want to hold a meeting up. I'll speak to the attorney later and the manager for that matter and the clerk, because I don't think we should have segregated 3 things into one separately, trying to accomplish this goal when it already had been presented as one item initially from the clerk. I just want to put that on the record and I'll follow up in emails to all 3 of them. Thank you very much.
Madam Attorney, as our parliamentarian, I know that I asked for a motion for the add-on, and that motion was second and was moved and second, and we voted. And then I asked for another motion to amend the agenda, allow for a public presentation. Is there any, I guess, problem with that, as Commissioner Kelly has brought up?
From what I'm understanding, the clerk did present them as 2 separate items, and so they were carried out and considered as 2 separate items. I will, speak with Commissioner Kelly about his concern along with the manager following the meeting.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so can we get a vote on the approval of the agenda?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Mr.
I
Mayor,
already voted on the agenda.
by Vice Mayor Davis. Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
I have a motion and a second on the approval of the agenda.
okay, so we're just looking for the vote.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, vote, roll call.
Vice Mayor Davis,
yes.
Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Kelly,
No.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
This is for the agenda. What is
Yes.
this?
approval of the agenda.
Yeah.
Mayor Pygott,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the virtual special commission meeting minutes for April 3rd, 2020?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis, second by Commissioner Bass. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Do I have a motion to approve the virtual regular commission meeting minutes for April 8th, 2020?
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Bass,
Second.
second by Vice Mayor Davis. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Madam Clerk, do we have any reports from District 1 and 2?
Yes, I did receive something from Mr. Larry Gardner. Just a moment, Mayor. So basically, Mr. Gardner did indicate that Commissioner Jordan would like you all to just go on her Facebook page to be able to receive different information and updates. So she's encouraging you all to just go on her Facebook page for information. And that concludes the report from District 1. I did not receive anything from District 2, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any public comments for Citizens Forum?
No, Mr. Mayor, I have not received any.
All right, Madam Attorney or Madam Clerk, will one of you go through how the public can submit comments for this time?
Since this is a virtual meeting, as authorized by the governor, as stated previously, again, members of the public wishing to address the commission have been offered the opportunity to do so. If there had been comments, they would have been included as a part of the public record for this virtual meeting and would have been considered by the city commission prior to taking any action. The public was invited to email jflores@opalockafl.gov. And this meeting is, of course, being viewed live, as I stated earlier, at www.youtube.com/user/City of Opa-locka. And Madam Clerk, if there is anything else that you included as a part of your notice that was not announced, you may do so at this time, please.
Mr. Mayor, that sounds about right. So she's covered everything.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to action items, Madam Attorney, 13.2.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing final payment of all accrued annual leave, personal leave, and sick leave totaling $6,362.73 connected with tenure of former interim city manager Newell Daltrey, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
And do I have a motion? Moved by Commissioner Kelly,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bass. Floor is open for discussion.
Mayor,
Commissioner Kelly.
thank you. Mr. Manager, this item is sponsored by you. I'm assuming that according to finance and payroll and everyone, this is the total amount, according to your records, that's owed to the former manager?
Yes, that's correct, Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager,
Commissioner
Ye-
Burke.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. That's okay. That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Any other discussion on this item?
Mayor Paget, not a discussion, but that was my thoughts also. If it was documented that it's owed to whomever, in this case, our former city manager, if it's documented and it's 100%, that's my concern. Thank you.
All right. I pulled this item because, and any other discussion on the item? I pulled this item for two concerns. One with, as many of the commission know, I was part of the crew that believed that we needed to get a new manager, mostly due to the fact that the previous manager, I believe, was not doing his due diligence in terms of meeting with each of us and giving proper reports to us about the state of the city of Opa-locka. And in one of those meetings, I brought up the fact that there was a time in which it was noted that the manager was somewhere else partaking than in the city of Opa-locka, and I didn't see that noted in any way, shape, or form. So I am concerned. I have questions about the personal leave and sick time leave. But this also brings to light one major problem within the city of Opa-locka that I hope that the manager can address and that we are able to get legislation to address. And that is the cap on sick and paid leave, and also the fact that currently we have an abnormally high amount of unpaid sick paid leave to the tune of over $1.6 million within the city of Opa-locka. And I want to make sure that if we pass this, we also see legislation to address that issue, and what is the process, and what are we doing to address that major issue with the huge amount of personal and sick leave, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, so what we're currently doing is we're doing a assessment of everybody's benefit time, and we're going to start systematically cashing out benefit time, so employees at the end of their tenure don't have so much benefit time that will cause a huge liability upon the city upon them leaving employment. So we're working with our budget department to come up with a 3-step process to cash out that time over a 3 to 5 year period, and that will be incorporated within the 5-year plan as well.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Vice Mayor Davis?
As it relates to this item, the paid sick leave and personal leave, in my opinion, I guess this would in some way result back to a policy. I know that, I guess I was under the assumption that we actually operated under PTO, which is paid time off. And I know it's common for most municipalities to use it. Like most organizations tend to use personal and sick leave. But I thought I was actually under the impression that my staff was using PTO, or I know that was somewhere down the pipeline in the discussion. But if it hasn't taken place, I guess I'll bring it to the manager's attention that maybe it needs some looking into, because that seems to be, I guess, a problem, a root of the problem. Like it stems from that. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Mayor Pygott.
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
Item 15A1.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, authorizing the city manager to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the structure at 490 Alibaba Avenue to allow for the replacement of windows and doors on this registered historic property, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date. This is sponsored by the city manager.
Since this is a public hearing item, could you state for the record, just does the previous statement about public comment relate to this, Madam Attorney?
Yes, sir. No items, from my understanding, this was also considered separately. No items were received for this public hearing item, and the clerk did notice this, and there were no comments received as of 7 this evening.
All right, Mr. Gay.
Good evening, everyone, Mayor and Commissioners. Gregory Gay, Director of Planning and Community Development. This is an application for the certificate of appropriateness, basically to allow for the replacements of windows and doors on a historic property, the historic train station, which is located at 490 Alibaba Avenue. The certificate of appropriateness is the item, is the documentation that is required in order to sustain our historic properties, to make sure that they go through a proper procedure. Over the years, the city of Opa-locka has not had a city-seated historic preservation board. And due to the lack of that particular board, in 2015, we passed legislation to allow for the city manager to make a recommendation in the absence of the historic preservation board. That information was provided before you as a part of this application. Seeing that this application is only to replace the windows and doors, the proprietor of the properties have gone forward and seek information and a letter from the state of Florida regarding their ability to replace the windows and doors. This letter basically supports them in doing so, and for the replacement would be up to code and up to the requirements. And it's only for the replacement of windows and doors. The replacement windows and doors are going to be of the same style. The only modification is that it would be impact windows and doors. Therefore, it would be up to today's standards with Miami-Dade County for sustaining high level velocity winds and doors. So we do recommend on behalf with the city manager, the approval of this certificate of appropriateness. If you have any questions or concerns, I'll address them at this time.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, the floor is open. Let's move and second, and then let's address the questions to Mr. Gay, so that we do all our comments on the actual item. So do I have a motion to hear public hearing item 15A1?
Move it.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Kelly. The floor is open for discussion. Commissioner Burt.
Mr. Gay, is there at the present time anything wrong with the windows in the historic building except that they're not impact windows?
Mr. Gay.
Through the chair, we have not done any type of physical assessment of what is going on with that particular structure itself. But for the sake of safety and actually out of convenience and in order to preserve our historic properties, there have been many properties that have upgraded their windows and doors to meet those particular requirements. And going from a standard window to an impact window, as long as you're not changing the style of the window itself, meets those particular requirements.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Burt.
then how are y'all gonna come to ask us to approve something and y'all haven't even been there? Y'all haven't, see, this is what I'm talking about. Y'all haven't inspected the place. Y'all haven't inspected the windows. This is an historical building in the city. And y'all have before us, y'all want to change windows and doors, but nobody from the city has been there to inspect the windows and doors that are there. Why are we having this? Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on this item?
Mayor Paget?
Commissioner Bass.
I totally agree with Commissioner Burt. Again, we're, put in a place where we need to approve something when the powers that be hasn't taken a look at it. That's kind of ludicrous to me. I would like to know that they have been there, looked at it, checked it out, and then come back to us and say, look, this is what we're looking at, and we need an approval. But just to throw it out there, and by the way, I know that it needs to be done. I'm not against it at all, but again, the way it's been done. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Gay, could you state for the record, is it a normal operating procedure outside of COVID-19 type of crisis for an inspection to be done on a certificate of appropriateness?
Mr. Mayor and members of the commission, under normal circumstances, we would not do an inspection for someone making a request for a certificate of appropriateness, as long as the changes or modifications to the property are within the code. If this property was a privately owned property, we would not do an inspection if someone wanted to change their windows from non-impact windows to impact windows. So that is something that is a decision being made by the property owner themselves. The only reason that this item is being brought before you is because it is a historic property and is required to have a certificate of appropriateness for any exterior changes that are made to the structure. Other than that, this is basically a property owner wanting to upgrade their windows and doors.
And Mr. Gay, just for the record, they will still have to, all the windows will go through the standard process of permits and inspections from our buildings and license department. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And by it being impact windows and doors, they will have to meet the requirements of Miami-Dade County for impact windows and doors.
All right, so we are following all proper procedures at this moment in regards to item 15A1. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna get Vice Mayor and then to go back to Commissioner Burke and then Commissioner Bass. Vice Mayor?
Okay. I just want to give a little clarity on the item because, of course, I've probably dealt with it a little more intimately than the rest of my colleagues. Is in reference to the historic Harry Hurt building. Of course, that's the building that the Opa-locka CDC owns. The windows are actually outdated, like many of our commercial spaces in the city. So, like Mr. Gay alluded to, this would allow an historic structure to ultimately be upgraded to have features such as high impact windows, which is actually required by Miami-Dade County Code for residential properties and commercial properties. So in essence, it's just bringing the site up to code, or bringing it up to, what is now recommended by our local building official. A few years back, as you know, we had we had a few hurricanes that we experienced. As a staff, we actually had to board up those windows. So I know that this change will allow, I guess, an easy transition. Of course, we experienced hurricanes down here in South Florida. So I know that's one of the intentions behind the item. But I just wanted to make that point of clarifications just so my colleagues can have the same level of understanding as I do. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Burke?
Mr. Mayor, my concern is, okay, that's a very noticeable historic building next to Opa-locka City Hall. That's one of the most historical buildings in the city. And for Mr. Gay to sit there and say, they recommend that something happens to an historical building in this city, and don't nobody from the city know anything about it, or don't nobody in the city have any recommendations? We're talking about historical buildings. This is ludicrous. Okay, you're gonna change the windows. Does that change the historical? I'm asking, was there anything with the windows in the building, or they're just trying to bring the building up to code? And would that take it out of its historical resignation? But I'm still saying, for the city of Opa-locka to just sit here and they bring this to us and say, oh, well, we haven't inspected anything. This is crazy. Who does this? Who does this? Oh, I'm sorry, the city of Opa-locka. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Bass?
Thank you, Mayor Paget. I just want to tell our Vice Mayor and Mr. Gay, thanks for the clarification. I totally understand. Thank you so much for that. But I would kind of reiterate that question just out of curiosity. If changing the windows or the doors, would that take it out of the criteria of being historic, or would it still remain historic with the modern day windows and doors?
Mr. Gay?
Yes, thank you for the question. Because this is a historic property, it does have to meet certain requirements as it relates to its aesthetic appearance.
Mm-hmm.
They based the prior proprietors of the property did go through the process of securing a letter from the state of Florida as it relates to basically making sure that the replacement windows and doors look exactly like the existing windows and doors that are a part of the property now. The only change is that instead of it being a regular door or a regular window, it will be an impact door or an impact window. So it will still retain, because of its physical, visual appearance, it will still retain its historic designation.
Thank you so much.
Any other discussion on this item? Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly,
Yes.
Commissioner Bass,
Yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Mayor Paget.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, Mr. Manager, your report.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Vice Mayor. The manager's report is one of concern for the city of Opa-locka and its citizens in regards to COVID-19. As you all may know, the city has a large amount of positive cases per capita, one of the largest, if not the largest, case amount per capita in Miami-Dade County. So we're trying to find techniques and methods in order to address the greater good of the city on behalf of the residents. We've been doing a very dynamic job in doing these feedings every Tuesday, serving our residents the best way we can. It's been very refreshing to see the city come together with our churches and our various other organizations and doing these feedings almost 5 days a week to provide for our residents. I think the key here is I feel like our residents need to hear one voice, one sound from all of our elected officials and all of our staff in regards to the message in relation to COVID-19. And I think that's very, very noteworthy and very important to state. We typically run into confusion when narratives are given by individuals, not a fault of their own, but when individual narratives come out with from different entities or different aspects of the government, messaging tends to get confused. And so my goal in the next 2 weeks is to try to find a way where we have solid and succinct messaging where we all are on one accord, speaking to our residents and providing services to our residents. I've had a conversation with Miami-Dade County as recent as this morning, had a conversation with Frank Rollinson in regards to getting a separate testing site in the city of Opa-locka. And the response was, unless the city of Opa-locka was willing to fit the bill for an independent testing site, meaning paying for the physicians, paying for the testing equipment, paying for the test, that would be pretty difficult to get an independent testing site within the city of Opa-locka, but that they could look at partnerships with Commissioner Bovo's office or the city mayor in attempting to maybe open up a site or expand a site for our residents for testing. So that was a conversation as recent as today in trying to get more testing sites available for our residents. As you all know, a lot of our testing sites are drive up. We have a lot of residents that don't drive. We have a lot of residents that walk, they're on bike, they don't drive. So testing for them is very difficult and complicated. So the advice given to me by Miami-Dade County was for our electorate to correspond with the county mayor in regards to testing sites, and that that would be the only way that testing sites could potentially come about in the city of Opa-locka or close to the city of Opa-locka to serve our residents. It has to go through the electorate, and I kind of respect that. And so in my opinion, I think some type of document needs to be generated jointly by the entire commission requesting a testing site in Opa-locka or near Opa-locka to kind of assist our residents in going through this process. So I've been dealing with COVID-19 since its inception. It's been a very stressful ordeal for our staff and our residents, and of course for everybody that's listening today. My only goal is to make sure that we have unity in communication and unity in regards to the message that goes out to our residents. And I think that's very poignant and very important to occur. As well as we have our other priorities, we're still working on our 99 findings and getting policies and procedures together for those. We're still working on an audit that we will get out prior to the May 15th deadline based on the extension that we were given. We're still working on doing our road projects. We're still working on our pump stations. So on top of COVID-19, city operations is still moving forward as far as projects that were approved by the commission and based on the goals the commission has provided. I provided a notice to the commission maybe a couple of weeks ago in regards to goal setting and strategic planning. I know we were supposed to be having these workshops, and of course COVID-19 happened, and that kind of threw a wrench into kind of our plans. So I'm soliciting from our electorate some type of written a strategic plan or written document letting me know what their individual goals are that they want to see completed within the next 6 months, so I can kind of bring everything together and kind of push everybody's objectives forward in order to make Opa-locka a much better place. I did get replies from some, and those replies are appreciated greatly, and it does assist the manager's office in directing the city in the place that needs to go. In saying that, I appreciate everybody's efforts and support of me and my staff as we kind of pursue and push through this COVID-19 situation. I don't see it as something that is going to resolve itself anytime soon. I know the county mayor is looking at opening parks and beaches back up and golf courses and various other venues back up. I don't think Opa-locka is in a place where we are to open up our parks or open up our green spaces as of yet, based on the number of COVID-19 positive cases we have. In that, 1 of 4, and according to what study you read, 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 individuals that have COVID-19 are asymptomatic, meaning having no symptoms. So my fear is putting the city back to normal and seeing our numbers skyrocket because we have individuals that do not even know that they're COVID-19 positive, spreading the virus throughout our city. In saying that, I always look forward to the input and guidance from our commission and our staff and our stakeholders, our community stakeholders. So so this really completes my report, and I take any questions that anybody may have at this time.
Mayor Paget,
Commissioner Bass?
to the city manager, are we still at 154, I believe?
A report is going out this evening. If it hasn't went out already, we're at 160.
Yeah, 160.
As of today.
Thank you.
Mayor Paget,
Commissioner Burke?
Mr. Manager. It's not surprising to me that our numbers are this high. Since we've been in this situation, I've called you repeatedly about our city not being locked down. I've called you once or twice about we still had congregation of people hanging out at Kaboom Park, still playing dominoes, not 1 or 2 people, but several people. We still have people congregating on Scheherazade Boulevard, even right now, with the curfew. We still have kids and people out in the Blues apartment and the apartments across the street from Quick Stop, 22nd Avenue apartments, even after the curfew. There should be nobody on the streets after curfew, but we still aren't enforcing it. We still aren't enforcing it. I'm surprised our numbers aren't higher. Our city has been wide open. Our city has anybody, any and everybody could come into our city All of our business was open. People was coming to work. We don't even know if the cases was generated here in Opa-locka because people were still coming into the city. We have police that will ride right down Scheherazade Boulevard and see the people in the medium. Let me tell you, I know because I would put my mask on, I would get in my truck, and I would ride the city. I would ride the city. I would see them out there, okay? I would ride the city at night. You would see people walking around with no mask on. So I know if I can ride and I can see them, what are our police officers doing? What are they doing? I'm saying, I know this is very serious. I try to keep myself safe. We are the eyes and the ears of this city. We are. And like I say, I'm not the only one to get out there and ride the city. I know it's a bad time now. I've seen Commissioner Kelly out there. But if we talk about we're elected officials, we want to hire somebody to come and speak for us. We're the speakers of the city. We can't just sit in our house and like I said, I realize it's a bad time, but you don't have to put your mask on, put your gloves on, get in your car and ride the city. If you think I'm lying, put your mask and your gloves on. Go out there after 10 o'clock tonight. Ride back there in the Blues. I was back there in the Blues, and there was a police officer back there, and the kids was in the park, a bunch of kids. We have no enforcement. We have no enforcement of the things we have put in place. And Mr. Manager, you know, I've called you several times about this. Until we get a handle on this, until we get some enforcement from the people that's supposed to be enforcing it, our numbers are going to continue to skyrocket. And I'm urging you, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of you commissioners, put your mask on, put your gloves on, get in your car, ride your city, and you'll see what's going on. You don't have to take it from me. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Mr. Manager.
First, Commissioner Burke, I share your sentiments and your frustration in regards to this. And yes, you have called me, and every call you've provided to me, I've relayed that information to our chief of police. So I totally do understand, and I do acknowledge your phone calls, and I do acknowledge your efforts, as well as riding the streets and identifying issues that are going on. We went through an education phase. Now we're going through an enforcement phase. The arrests have been made on curfew violations, and that has been put out in reports. I would ask, the chief, while we're all in this meeting, to maybe tell the officers to stop giving individual chances and enforce it even more at a higher level. To do that, you have to remember, Commissioner Burke, when we invoked this curfew, there was an assistance that we go through an educational phase and not put our residents in the criminal justice system necessarily. So we're beyond that point now, right? So we're beyond that point. So we're at the point of making arrests and doing those things. But upon enacting this curfew, the commission did have very clear direction on how we implement the curfew and how we interact and deal with our residents. But what you're saying, I hear 100%. I agree with you 100%, and we will do better in trying to work on that to make sure that those numbers are lower at that time of night.
Right. Any other questions for the manager during his manager's report?
Mayor Paget, I'm not sure that it towards the manager, but maybe I just had a concern where on yesterday on live, I noticed that we had a Rotary Club feeding within our city. And I don't know if my colleagues knew about it, but I had absolutely no idea until I saw it on social media. And for me, that was a little bit disturbing because I feel as if well, let me speak for myself. I should have known that there was another city coming in, a Rotary Club to feed in our backyard. And I don't know. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, well, I would love to have supported this. So, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna actually address that too during my report. Any other comments, questions for the manager?
Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. Mr. Manager, I will take that off. As far as that feeding yesterday by the Rotary Club, there was an incident that happened on Johnson Street and Lincoln Avenue where the Rotary Club from Darrell and Little Haiti came to the city with food that they wanted dispersed. They wanted to distribute. There was an altercation over on Lincoln and Johnson with Pastor McHale, and the food was here. So they were still, after the altercation happened there, they were taking the food away. I called the city manager and asked the city manager, since the food was already here, could we take the food over to Shabandi and give it out to our residents and whoever was available that wanted the food? The manager said it was all right. So I had the Rotary Club to bring the food over to Shabandi. We had volunteers. We had secured tables and chairs. And then we commenced feeding the people. We must have fed over 200 people. But there was food in the city that was about to be taken out of the city. And then I did instruct Mr. Pepe, I gave him my card, and
Okay, we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him. We got disconnected somehow.
That was sudden. Okay. All right. Any other questions for the manager?
Mr. Mayor, real quick, a comment before you close out. To the manager, and just to kind of echo what Commissioner Burke is saying, I know we all, take this emergency situation seriously, but as you know, my position as it relates to enforcing the curfew, as it relates to the COVID-19 matters is, again, encouraging our police department to practice discernment and really using their judgment and discretion as they reach out to our residents. Because again, yeah, we can lock our residents up, but I don't think sending them to the county jail where they're going to be out in 1 or 2 days right back in our community and putting them in a position where, they probably going to get infected anyway. We all know the jails isn't a great place, hence why they are releasing inmates and reducing their population. So again, I would ask the police department to exercise judgment and discretion and discernment and approaching our community. And of course, I know it's going to be a couple bad apples and we're going to have to do what we're going to have to do. But again, I would not, I would encourage that approach. Thank you.
Mayor Paget.
Commissioner Bass.
All due respect, Vice Mayor, I think this has been our problem forever in the city, where we do not allow our residents to be held accountable for their infractions. They're not babies. These are young adult male, females that are just roaming the street, not caring about anybody's life. And we can't continue to patty cake people or pat them on the back. Yes, there are allowing people to leave because the jails are infested. But guess what? The streets are infested too. They are infested too. Not until we take responsibility of our neighborhoods, of our streets, things are going to change. If we continuously say we don't want our people caught up in the system, I agree with it. But guess what? They don't care if they're there or not. Otherwise, they will take heed to the curfew, and they're not.
Commissioner.
They're just not. So it's like we can't continue to pat them on the back saying we don't want this, we don't want that, but they're not meeting us halfway.
Commissioner, with all due respect.
Hold on, wait. Remember, we are still in a public meeting. And everything must be addressed through the chair. Vice Mayor Davis.
Commissioner Bass, with all due respect, the reason I'm taking this approach is because when I urged the commission months ago, when we had shootings in the same communities that we enforcing the loitering laws, when there's a pandemic going on and our residents are experiencing a public health epidemic. Now we want to enforce the laws. But when our residents a couple months ago, when there were shootings in Glorietta Gardens and these same apartments that we are aggressively enforcing, like now it's an issue. All of a sudden, it wasn't an issue months ago and that's all I'm saying. Have some consistency because we wasn't enforcing loitering laws and all this when violence and residents was crying out to us in the past. So why aggressively enforce it now and criminalize our residents when we know they're struggling from lack of employment, when we know that they're being displaced from their homes and people are dying by the day? Like we know this. So why would we sit up here and I don't understand why we put our residents in that sort of position. Like that's my position. You know, everybody could take a stance where they stand, but I will reserve my position.
Mayor Paget?
All right. I really don't want to have a platform where we literally going back and forth.
Well, Mayor Paget, with all due respect, this is
wait. I got you. I always let people speak. All right, come on, y'all. Y'all know I always let people speak. I would like to encourage that we respect Robert Rules of Orders, address everything through the chair. We are a commission as a group. So we don't have a public going back and forth with individuals. We address it as a commission. So we make these statements to the public that is online and watching. Let's make sure we continue to address and make our statements to the commission, to the chair, and to the public. Commissioner Bass.
Mayor Paget, with all due respect, I believe I have done that. I call on you first and you acknowledge me and I said what I needed to say. With saying all of that, I'm going to make a general statement. I stand by what I just said. It is time for us to hold our residents accountable for what they do, for what we do. We are a group of people that if we don't get to the point where we're held accountable, nothing is going to change. That's the only point I'm trying to make. And talking about being having consistency in what we do and what we don't do. Yeah, we're falling short in a whole lot of ways. And I own up to that as a part of this dais. Yeah, we don't do everything right, but what we can do right, we need to do it right. Whether we're late doing it, we just need to do it right. If this is a fresh start and being able to police the areas that need to be policed, then we start now. Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna move on to the mayor and commissioner report. Anybody has?
Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
We're still under the manager's report, correct?
I just moved on to the mayor and commissioner report.
I never had a chance to speak, Mr. Mayor. I was waiting my turn.
Okay, you want to address the manager's report? Please
Yes.
do.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, you mentioned that you had a discussion with Mr. Rollins and appealed to the county mayor. I'm going to say to my colleagues that I'm working on a letter. We can all be supportive, or I can send it by myself. It doesn't matter, because I'm very concerned with the numbers going up, and I understand that it's going to take some push from some higher ups to get a testing site. I've heard what the mayor said. I've heard what the manager said previously about when they've been on these calls, but quite honestly, we do need a site in Opa-locka or some type of partnership that could accommodate, and I'm not just talking about drive up, but walk-ups. And so I'm preparing a letter to send to the county mayor, also to our county commissioner and the governor. I want them to be able to say no, or as I heard the manager allude to, there is a possibility of one with some kind of parameter. So, Mr. Manager, if I heard you correctly, he indicated that there's a possibility of doing it, but there's a cost for that to occur. What is that cost?
So, Mr. Rollison, then through the mayor.
Could you speak up?
Mr.
I can hardly hear you.
I'm sorry, through the mayor. Mr. Rollison did not provide me a figure. He did say that it would be a co-op. There's a co-op opportunity to share a site with the county that's right outside of the city, that's in close proximity to the city, to test our residents. But the city would have to put in some type of financial contribution for testing supplies and staffing, not to provide the staffing, but just to provide cash infusion to support that operation, like increasing, because if we open up to Opa-locka residents, then the number of tests would have to increase. So it requires more supplies, more staffing, more hours of operation, and various different things like that. He did say that's possible. I asked if there was anything I can specifically do, and his recommendation, and then I can forward that email to the commission in writing, was for our electorate to send communication to the county mayor and make that request. That's how cities are getting these testing sites in their city. That I couldn't achieve that at my level.
Okay, well, let me just say this. While we're debating, in my opinion, Mr. Mayor and my colleague, while we're debating enforcement or lack of or restrictions, I think that's what we ought to be focusing on. The manager's heard the concerns about enforcement, and the police department works for him. I'm concerned about getting testing done because I don't think we've actually had enough testing in the city of Opa-locka. So I would suggest that we, whatever has been suggested through Mr. Rollins, he's correct. We need to get that to the county mayor. Mr. Mayor, you're on those calls with the county mayors. I don't know how you can push that, but if it requires some dollars, and we need to find out what those dollars possibly are so that we can get a site that could test our residents. We didn't do that, yesterday more so than tomorrow. If we were willing to spend $15,000 on a PR person, then that's $15,000 right there automatically that you can look at for something of this nature. When we all agree that the numbers are going up. So, Mr. Manager, if you can provide that to the commission, like I said, I think we ought to do it as a group through the chair, which would be the mayor. But if not, I'll write the letter myself, make a request, and whatever needs to be done, and come back to the commission or whatever. But I think we need more testing in the city. A lot of our folks are not going to these sites for various reasons, and our numbers are escalating. And I'm of the opinion that if we had more testing, our numbers would be higher. And I think that that's just an automatic, given what I'm seeing in other cities that have similar makeups that Opa-locka has throughout the country. So you can find that out, Mr. Manager, of what those numbers are, or who we would directly, be partnering with. I think we need to put that in and get that done like soon as possible in terms of that outreach or that movement, and get our county commissioner on board with what we're trying to do to get her support, to get a site either here or, as the manager said, close to here that our residents could go to. I think we ought to look at that immediately. Mr. Manager, I wanted to also say to you, you mentioned your report about goals and objectives. You did send an email, as I indicated to you. I think right now, from my perspective, COVID-19 and the things you're already working on with the audit and 99 findings and the like is enough. I think all of the other initiatives, while they are important, I think can wait till we can see kind of the light at the end of the day. So I'm not going to be submitting anything else other than what you're already working on, because I think that needs to be our primary focus until that curve goes down in Opa-locka. I'm not convinced it's down in the state, even though the governor's saying it. I definitely don't think it's down in Opa-locka because people still are not taking it seriously, in my opinion. So I'm not going to get into the law enforcement side. Mr. Manager, you say you're already addressing that, but I think we need to look at the testing and do what we can to get a site close to the city or what have you, and move on that front. We're doing pretty good with the food outreach. I would like to say, Mr. Manager, because ultimately it comes to you and your staff, even though we have Mr. Bryce through the clerk's office assigned. From our perspective, for the food, I have received concerns, and I'm quite sure my colleagues have as well. And I kind of brought it up at the feeding on yesterday, the products that we're receiving. When folks are looking on TV, they're seeing a much more variety of items, et cetera, as opposed to what we're receiving. I know we don't control what we get, but I just want to make sure that we, going forward, we'll try to at least share those concerns with Feeding South Florida as it relates to what I've been hearing from some of our residents in the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and if Mr. Manager, you can get that, that would be appreciated.
Through the mayor.
Right.
Commissioner Kelly, I do have the email pulled up.
I can't hear you.
Commissioner Kelly, I do have the message pulled up from Mr. Rollins. That alternative site would be Amelia Earhart Park. And he states to reach out to either the county mayor or Commissioner Esteban Bovo, because I guess that's in his district, to see if we can expand the site, our testing there, and do a co-share, funding co-share for that site.
Okay, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, since you're the chair and you are already meeting on these conference calls, is it possible for you then to reach out to the county mayor in terms of seeing what that is, or what it would take, the cost for that partnership in conjunction with Commissioner Bolton, get our county commissioner involved, see what that would be. That's something that's doable in our city, since the manager indicated it's not something he can really direct from where he sits.
As I was going to explain during my mayor's report, those conversations we've already been having. That's exactly why the manager has that email communication from Frank Rollison, because I have reached out to our county Commissioner Barbara Jordan, the office of the mayor, the deputy mayor, and quite a few others, even the financial, the emergency management board. And I've been relaying that information to our manager, and I specifically asked for our manager to make sure he also utilizes all communication channels that he have and get the latest data. So I'm going to go into more detail on the full report in a moment. That's why I'm pausing and let everybody speak, so that you can be clear about the communications that I've been having. As you know, at every instance and opportunity, I continue to update the commission and everyone, and during all of our events, about the latest happenings and what's going on. And at our feeding yesterday, I made an announcement. I let people know that we have been reaching out to get testing. So these are conversations that we are currently having and undergoing. It is very frustrating, though, and I want to make this very clear, that when we get communications from them, like, for example, for increasing our messaging, and then this commission decides not to even entertain or even hear from a messaging specialist, those are the type of things and decisions that almost make us look like a joke as a city of Opa-locka, because we are not even doing the basics of messaging within the city, within the city, and doing our part. So it's very important that we do these things. So I want to ask a few questions to the manager, just so that we're all clear.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
I have the floor, Commissioner, please.
No, I asked you a question and you responded to my question. I'd like to finish. I had the floor. I asked you a question.
Commissioner, I have.
Thank you. I had the.
So, Mr. Pate.
Yes,
could
sir.
You, please respond in regards, and Commissioner Kelly, I will unmute you when we finish the question, so you can get the floor back. So Mr. Pate, do we have anyone crafting a message to our residents within the city of Opa-locka? Do we have any public relations specialist expertise within the city of Opa-locka?
No, other than just generally putting out information that we get from other sources and putting it on Facebook and our website. No, we don't have anybody to craft a message to our residents in regards to a myriad of issues, even outside of COVID-19.
And who is crafting the educational message? Because right now it seems as though what the commissioner wants is the police to be the main messengers of the city of Opa-locka about what's going on. Who is crafting the message to from the police to our residents?
The chief of police, Chief
Okay.
Dobson.
Okay. These are some concerns, because we all know with our residents in our community, there's a tension between the people and the officers many times, especially for some of the residents that we're talking about that may be violating our enforcement issues. And that's why it's very important that we are able to craft a message and communicate as a government very straight up to the people. But for us not to get any assistance or have any expertise in doing that, none of us are PR specialists sitting here and driving around in our cars in masks looking at people isn't communicating the message to people. We need to be able to communicate and utilize all channels that we have, from Code Red, social media, email lists, and also getting out there and doing PA. But it is difficult to do that when there isn't a clear message that is organized that brings together everyone's thoughts. So when this commission decided not to give the manager emergency powers to be able to make decisions and send that messaging, and now it decided not to give us the opportunity to provide any messaging. These are the things that are literally handicapping us as a government. And I cannot believe that we continue to try and have all these different chiefs give their perspective that is not based upon the expertise about what we need to be doing. That's what the government is for, is to be able to bring together professionals. That's what our taxpayers do. They provide us their taxes for us to hire professionals to provide services to the city. And this public relations is a key component of a government that we do not have in the city and haven't had for 4 years, which is one of the reasons why there's a lot of negative press about Opa-locka, because we are not communicating our own message. And it is us sitting here on this dais preventing that from happening. And to me, that is a problem. That is a big problem. And so it lies with this commission. And we have decided, and I know I wasn't part of that vote, but the commission decided that it's going to be on us to make all these decisions. It's going to be on us to get this word out. And right now we have one of the highest rates in the state of Florida for municipality. And we still are not providing, still believe that we are the ones that should be saying everything and having all these different messages from each other. So that is a problem that needs to be addressed. And that's why I reached out to the state. We got the support of Melinda Miguel's office and our Chief Inspector General for this. It was already approved in our budget to do this. And yet the people sitting on here states they don't want to make it happen. That is a problem. So before we sit up there and talk about we need to reach out to the mayor's office, all these other, we got to handle our own business within our own city and do what we need to do. So I'm going to go into more detail about all the things that we have been doing as a city, but I wanted to make sure that we address this foolishness that's going on. Commissioner Kelly, you have the floor now.
And I make statements, it's not foolish. And I don't appreciate when I'm talking that you would mute me. That is totally disrespectful, sir, as the chair. I will sit, I will wait my turn before you mute me in the middle of my statement. you should not have done. You just spent 15 minutes on your public relations speech. That didn't pass. What's on the floor for discussion was the idea of trying to get a testing site in Opa-locka. You muted me, I thought, to address that. Instead, you went back to your position of a public relations firm. That has already not passed. So for you to bring that back up and ask the manager, we're crafting a message. Messages have been going out, Mr. Mayor. You've made it. You've been on Code Red making messages. Nobody asked me my opinion. You may have asked my other colleagues. Nobody asked me about going on Code Red, or did we have a unified message? You did that. But as the chair, you decided to do it. That's fine. I'm saying to you, and I'm still saying to this commission, if there's a way to get testing, we need to get testing in Opa-locka. You as the chair, and you've said it on many occasions, you and yourself or the manager are in discussions that we're not privy to. The manager comes back and gives us information. We have to wait on a commission meeting or something, and then you'll give us whatever you want to tell us. I have just as much right as you do to inquire about issues. Everyone up here has the right to see things and express their opinion. The fact that I did not support having a public relations firm has nothing to do with not having concern for COVID-19 and having concern for the welfare of this community. I supported getting PR person, but not to pay $15,000 just to address COVID-19. So they're two separate issues that you keep tying together, and it sounds good, but it's two separate issues. The question's still on the floor about testing. And that's what I asked the manager. When you said you wanted to interject, you muted me. I still had the floor. You went on for your whole 10-minute speech about public relations and how it's foolish. That's disrespectful to me. Regardless of how I think or my opinion, it's my opinion, Mr. Mayor, and all four of us, along with myself, have different opinions. If we're going to do things in this city and move this city forward, it does start with us. It does start with us. It does start with us, and it starts with you as the chair, making sure that you respect your colleagues. And I have always, and always will until I leave here in November, be respectful of you as the chair, but I do not appreciate when you go on these speeches of going off keel to address a point, keep making a point that's already been defeated in legislation. And the parliamentarian being the attorney, I guess they're going to step in, that's already passed, but you're still talking about it. My concern is this: if it's possible to get testing in the city or close to the city for our residents, we need to look into that. So if the manager is providing that email with those contacts, or you've been in contact with Mr. Jordan and already made that request, that's fine. I haven't seen that document to say you made that request for a co-op testing site with Amelia Hart. Now, if that's been done, that's new to me because I haven't seen it. We need more testing in the city of Opa-locka. And having a PR person is not going to get us more testing. The PR person that we approved in the budget can come on and be public relations. I'm talking specifically right now. And if we got $15,000 out there that we can put towards this site or staffing for this testing for our residents, then put it out there for that, or have the manager bring it back to us in a special meeting whenever so we can do it. We need more testing. But until we recognize that all five of us up here love the city, have various opinions on how things ought to go, we have a city manager at the end of the day who has to guide this ship. And my only concern in this whole discussion was the testing phase of it. But for you to interject all this public relations and use the terminology, that's just disheartening to me. But I will always do what I can going forward to work together with everybody here, because at the end of the day, all of these folks that are impacted are our residents, just like the ones who have not been tested, the ones who have to go to the store and possibly be impacted by those who have not been tested, has a long-term impact. So I hope we move towards that end. So if you got the information, if you got the contact, if you're going to pursue reaching out and see what that cost is and bringing it back to the manager, fine. That was my only concern with this. The public relations and telling our story and crafting a message, the message is out there. Stay home. The message is out there. There's a curfew. The message is out there. We want to be consistent with our message, but understand our residents don't need to be locked up. The message is out there. And bringing somebody on, even through a temporary contract, that had already been defeated. So to keep bringing up is disheartening and disingenuous, even bring that up. And so, Mr. Mayor, it sounds good. It sounds good to say all those things, but at the end of the day, testing is what we need. Testing is what we need in the city, along with what we're doing with feeding, and the manager who runs all of the departments, including public safety, will address the curfew and all of that kind of stuff. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll wait for my report. Thank you.
All right, moving on to, we're moving from the manager's report, moving on to official board reports, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Madam.
Yes, may I read, I am looking to make an announcement for a closed door session, and I was hoping to read it at this point, right after the manager's report, if that's possible, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The city attorney's office is making an announcement of a closed door executive session, and this notice is being given pursuant to section 286.011 Florida statutes to hold a virtual meeting with the City Commission at 6:00 p.m. on May the 6th, 2020. And this would take place again virtually in a closed door way. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss the following pending litigation matter: the Brown Law Group LLC versus the City of Opa-locka, case number 2019-027913-CA-01. The following individuals will attend: Mayor Pygott, Vice Mayor Davis, Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Bass, Commissioner Burke, City Manager John Pate, City Attorneys Bernadette Norris Weeks, Michelle Austin Pammies, Lisa Crawford, Candace Cobb, and on the record court reporting. We expect that the length of the attorney-client session will last for about 45 minutes.
All right.
And if there are no conflicts with that date, May the 6th, 2020, prior to the next City Commission meeting, we'd like to schedule it for that time, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any conflict for having a meeting on the first Wednesday of May at 6 p.m.? We do not have a commission meeting that day, so we'll be coming on just for this. All right, no conflicts. All right, thank you very much for your announcement. Madam Clerk, are there any official board reports?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, moving on to mayor and commission reports. Who wants to go first?
Mayor Pygott?
Yes.
Yeah. Just quickly, for the fact that we are a mayor and commission city, and it's disturbing of a lot of things that's currently happening. And I know a lot of things are not done out of malice, but however, it's done anyways. Like I said earlier about the Rotary Club feeding, and Commissioner Burke tried to clarify, but he was disconnected. I also felt the same way when I received the robocall about the COVID-19 situation to our residents that you presented. Not knowing anything about it, phones ringing, I don't know what to say because I don't know anything about it. I just felt as if you're going to do something like that, the day should have been aware of it. Thank you.
Any other reports?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, to the all of the things that we're doing, and I just want to commend all of you and all of the colleagues and Mr. Rice, the clerk's office, for the feedings that we're doing, and the various departments, to the manager for the work they're doing. I did mention earlier about the food issue, but even withstanding that, I want to just commend all of the efforts of everyone of at least doing what we can from the food perspective. And I did want to ask the question of the attorney, and maybe, Mr. Mayor, if you're going to cover in your report, I'll wait. If we were to do something, or want to do something, reference walk-ups or something of that nature with food, et cetera, if it will be a different process. And I'm actually up to the attorney because I've had that question come up to me. So you can respond to all of us in writing. That'll be fine for the brevity of time. And the other question, well, the other thing, a part of my report with regard to upcoming things that I know we're having, the next thing that we would have been having is National Day of Prayer, what it looks like, depending on how things are going. But I want to, hopefully all of us will be engaged in that effort as well, which comes up May the 7th, actually in the city of Opa-locka. So I just wanted to put that out there as well and continue to do what we can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, may I respond?
Weeks.
Yes, Commissioner Kelly, I did write a report and a legal opinion that I presented to all of the commissioners specifically about food distribution. And I think that your issue, your issue is really covered in that legal opinion. I will forward it to you following the meeting, but in terms of walk-ups, I think those issues, if you review it, it will be carefully covered by that. But I'm happy to talk with you about it, and I'll also re-forward the opinion, and I'll give you a call following this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other reports from the commission? All right. So to the people of Opa-locka, I want to make everybody clear that we are currently in dealing with two crises at the moment. We have a financial crisis that we've been in for the past almost going on 3.5 years. And also now we're dealing with coronavirus pandemic. These perfect storm of these two things has put us in a very serious position as a city. And it is difficult for us to respond like many other cities because of this financial crisis and the impact. However, we have been making quite a few moves to address this issue. At the moment, we are in a government situation where it's a mayor and commission. And I'm going to be straight up and real. We're facing one of the most critical moments in the history of our city, where the fate of our community is literally on our backs as a city. We have a government institution, over 140 employees that are paid by the people to look out for them, to make sure we have the basics of public safety, water, infrastructure, and public health and safety. Right now, that is being held hostage. Right now, we have no one person within the city of Opa-locka that is being able to make executive decisions. As we've seen on this call so far, it is the manager is in a position where he's getting individual calls and pulled in many different directions and not having the ability and authority to make decisions. At our last commission meeting, emergency meeting, we decided not to provide the manager with the authority to make executive orders. What that does, currently right now, Miami-Dade County and the state of Florida and all across the nation, they're talking about opening up the country and relieving many of the executive orders that we are automatically abiding by as a city of Opa-locka because we're under Miami-Dade County emergency plan. Things are going to change on a day-to-day basis. And currently right now, in order to make any of those changes and adapt to our specific situation in the city of Opa-locka, we have to take the time and call an emergency meeting to get all the commission on board to address these issues. That is making it very difficult for me as mayor, that is the representative of the city, to have conversations with the county, the state, the emergency management, and a few others on coordinating responses, because we're not able to act as quickly as the day-to-day nature of this event. I requested for the city attorney to provide us a very clear document that lays out the legality of what we can do in the city of Opa-locka. And currently right now it is based upon the commission. One of the biggest problems that we're dealing with is that we have a high rate of coronavirus in the city of Opa-locka. That was only identified based upon me taking the time and really going through all the numbers personally to identify the number of cases and comparing them with the population. Immediately after finding that out, I reached out to the mayor's office. I reached out to the county commission. I also conducted that on a call with all the mayors and municipalities in the city of Miami-Dade County. Their main thing was talking about making sure we get the message out. And then they also said we're testing. However, because of the lack of resources with testing all across the country in general is not providing the funds to local entities to provide the testing centers. So recently in Miami-Dade County, one of our largest testing centers is the Hard Rock, the one closest to the city. The one at Amelia Earhart Park that the manager mentioned earlier is a by appointment only. I've called that number multiple times. And when you enter your address, they say there's no available appointments. So when the federal government removed funds from testing from many of the states, the Hard Rock Center was one of those that was impacted. However, we was able to leverage our collective powers as mayors and as elected officials to get the state to keep it open. And now the state is providing the funding for the Hard Rock. And they've increased the number of people who can get tested there up to 800. So if there are any residents that want to get tested, if you're having symptoms, we strongly encourage you to go up to Hard Rock at 9 a.m. And earlier than that to get in line. The lines are very, very long. And we're dealing with a testing crisis throughout the city of Opa-locka. In response to that, even though we had those issues, I spoke to the deputy mayor and the commission, Commissioner Barbara Jordan, to make sure that we get advocated so that we get specialized testing due to the unique nature of the rapid spread of COVID-19 in the city of Opa-locka. Right now, I'm looking hopefully to get a call within the next, hopefully tonight or later on tomorrow. I don't know if there's somebody from the National Guard in response to what can happen within the city of Opa-locka. But at the very least, I have made sure that our senior assistant facilities do get testing. When looking at the reports in regards to COVID-19, the highest cases of fatalities are seniors. And we currently have 3 major senior centers with over 100 seniors. And if there's any testing priority, we want to make sure that those seniors are tested first so we can know the nature of the outbreak within the city of Opa-locka with our most vulnerable. And I've also asked the manager to review our budget and identify any funding that we have available that can be used to respond to COVID-19. The number one priority is to get testing, I'm hoping, and also other things. I would like to make sure that we call a special commission meeting, actually an emergency meeting, because there's a few things I want to make sure we get done, because now that we have such a high number of cases, I think we need to be a little more stringent with the emergency orders within the city of Opa-locka. And I'm asking that we call an emergency meeting to implement that all people in the city of Opa-locka have to wear masks when out. We decrease the number of people congregating from 10 to either 2 or 5 within the city of Opa-locka. We provide the manager with emergency powers to be able to respond on a day-to-day issue as Miami-Dade County open up, that we do what we need to do to address our population. And as a part of that, I'm hoping that during that time, we can have an accurate analysis of how much funding we can actually spend during this time of crisis. And as a commission, we can come together to think about various ideas about how we can respond to this. One of the biggest problems is that the information. If you've noticed over the past 2 days, you've been seeing reports, daily reports from the manager in regards to the data with COVID-19. I specifically asked for a working group was developed within the city of Opa-locka so that we can bring together all of our professionals, the people that are the chief of police, parks and recreation, everyone that is on the ground working to start to brainstorm ideas about how we can respond and leverage the collective power of the government and employees to address this issue. But it is on us, and I'm pleading to my colleagues, that the more that we as individuals want to do things for because we want to do them and not be a part of a collective, the more difficult it makes. What Commissioner Bass mentioned in terms of this feeding that happened in the city of Opa-locka online, that's one of the cases. When we started doing these feeding, I was very passionate about ensuring that we had a collective understanding of all the food distributions in the city of Opa-locka. We as a city make sure that we host the largest and most consistent one in the city of Opa-locka for our community. And we make sure that through our social medias, through our email channels, we are communicating to the residents about how to access all the food distributions throughout the city, how seniors can call 311 to ensure that every senior can get food from the county if they call 311 delivered to them. These are critical components that we as a city, I believe, are not doing a good job of communicating to our residents. Testing centers, food distributions, our wellness checks that we have with our senior programs. I received a report today that we have 22 people within our senior program that are being called. We have hundreds of seniors in this city. We need to step that up. But it takes us getting the word out to make sure that our residents know what number to call, what to request these information, and where to go. I've also asked that we actually leverage the power of our community to establish some type of call center so that the residents can tell us what is going on, what are the issues, and we can direct them to where we need to go. The problem is that these things are not moving. Why? Because we constantly have to wait until meetings are called to get these very common sense, practical things for our community done. And these aren't things that are negatively impacting anyone. These aren't things that's negatively impacting the community. These are things that we need to get done as a city. So unless we're going to call an emergency meeting every single day to get daily updates, and if that's what it takes, I'm down to do it. But that's going to take a lot of resources from my staff to do that. We have sunshine that we got to abide by as a commission. And that right there, unfortunately, prevents us from responding as quickly and sharing information as quickly as we can, because these meetings are the only platform that we have to be able to really talk to each other and really brainstorm and work with commission to do these things. So I strongly call upon my colleagues, and I know those that some of them have already left this meeting and continue not to respect this government, but it's on us to do this, y'all. It is really on us to do this. The fate of our community is on us. So I hope that pretty soon we can get this emergency meeting put in place. We can discuss all these orders. I strongly encourage each of you to email the manager and the city attorney to put together whatever emergency orders that we need to make, all your ideas. Speak to the manager, get his ideas, and let's call these emergency meetings and let's get this stuff done. because the whole government is literally waiting on us 5 to make these decisions and move forward. So let's make this happen. Let's make this happen, y'all. Like, let's make this happen. In this special circumstance, I know we would move with the agenda and the board appointments, but I'm completely open to open up the floor on how we can, as a commission, streamline our response to this COVID-19 and address these issues.
Mayor Paget,
Commissioner Bass.
you're speaking in relation to getting the word out to our communities. That's what you're saying?
It's a few things, not just getting the word out. That's one part, but we have to make decisions. And because of the fact that we basically told the manager all decisions have to come from the commission, those ideas, as him and I are on these calls, he's with managers, I'm with mayors, all these leaders, we are getting a lot of the latest information and reports. But I personally am not able to communicate that to the rest of the days until we get on these commission meetings. So what I'm saying is that, number one, we need to, if we're going to be the ones making all these decisions, we need to meet more often. All y'all got to come up with all these ideas that you want to see happen, and we need to make them happen ASAP. And then we need to make sure that those decisions are communicated to all the people as quickly and efficiently and simply as possible. And those are the fundamental problems that we're currently encountering. So I want thoughts on how we can overcome that in this situation where we have voted not to give the manager authority to move, and we voted not to give a PR. So what's the solution, y'all?
Well, I won't say that this is a solution, but at the same time, I'm thinking when you have information, you said that you would have to wait till we get into an environment like this to share. And I believe that's just why we're paying Mr. Grice the money that we're paying him to be that middle person to get information to us when we need it. So utilize him as much as possible. I mean, you said one time and he got it and he'll send it to us. And that will be a way in which we can at least be more privy to what you yourself and the mayor talks, and the city manager talks about. We don't know your conversations. And I do understand, you know, the sunshine law that you can't get on phone and call us, but you can utilize Mr. Grice and he can get to us. And having the Zoom meetings, that's a drop of a dime. As far as I know, none of us are physically leaving our homes to go to work. 30 minutes or less, we're all on. This is our city. And I'm quite sure all 5 of us are going to do whatever it takes, as long as we believe in our hearts, to move our city forward. Thank you.
Madam Attorney, can we use Mr. Grice to communicate messages to other commissioners?
I apologize. I was trying to unmute the video as well. Well, what you can do is each of you can give instructions to the city. I believe Mr. Grice works for the city clerk, and you can speak with the city clerk about things that you would like for Mr. Grice to possibly do. I don't know what Mr. Grice's job description is, so that's a hard question for me to ask. But to the extent that you're speaking about issues related to COVID-19 and that floats up, and it goes through the city clerk, those issues can be handled by Mr. Grice. But again, I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know, and the city clerk will be in a better position to answer your question about how information is delivered to her for her employee.
No, the question wasn't asking Mr. Grice to do things as a legislative aide. The question is whether or not we can use a person to communicate messages between each other as a sunshine commission
That would be a resounding no. You can't communicate messages through a person to each other. But if Mr. Grice has, again, certain responsibilities that you're trying to, get him to do that are within his job description, then that's I think that goes to the gist of what Commissioner Bass may be talking about.
But that's the concern, is that I cannot communicate a message to individual commissioners as mayor of this city. However, I have, and I consistently do, I speak out in a public format about everything that I know. This issue with understanding from the response from Frank Rollison, that literally just happened today. But everything has been communicated. When we spoke to Melinda Miguel, the manager emailed that out to everyone. So we are doing what we can to ensure that everyone is informed. But we got to basically understand the very basic level. Each of us have our conversations and our things. We can't automatically transmit that to each other. There will be a delay. And on the other hand, Mr. Manager, are we able to call, and Madam Attorney, are you able to call an emergency meeting with emergency orders and legislation within 30 minutes prepared? Mr. Manager, IT, Ms. Weeks, could y'all respond to that?
Well, we have had emergency meetings called within an hour. You all have done that twice so far. So you are able to do, quick emergency meetings. And I think you've been doing that already.
So, Madam Attorney, I know with our last emergency meeting that we called, you were given notice that what we wanted to bring forth. And you had time to be able to craft the legislation that we were deciding upon. Are you saying moving forward that 30 minutes prior to a meeting, if we have an emergency, I can email you a list of emergency orders and that you and your office can prepare them, send them to the clerk, get them ready, and have a meeting ready within 30 minutes? Is that what you're saying we can do, Madam Attorney?
Well, I've never done that, but I'm hoping that you will, if you know that things are brewing, like for today, we received a contract. We were able to review the contract, redo the contract, get it to you guys before the meeting. So if we have some notice, it probably wouldn't be 30 minutes, no. But if we have some reasonable notice, we can, we can turn items around and try to get it out to you all for you to have a meeting. So it just depends on, what the complexity of the issue is. And obviously we're going to work to do whatever we need to do to, to support the items that you all want to bring forward.
Okay, and Mr. Pay, could you also speak about the time it takes to call meetings and be fully prepared for meetings?
It takes about 24 hours. If we're doing things complex like a contract, yeah, you can do that in an hour and 30 minutes. If you're doing something like emergency orders and you draft the legislation and modify emergency orders, it's going to take some time. The attorney has to do her legal research. We have to reference the state's orders and the county orders to make sure there's nothing conflicting. So that will take about 24 hours to do, unless me and Bernadette hook up and sit down and just like literally stop what we're doing and do that. But that's the complication when you're dealing with these orders, these local emergency orders, because you have to make sure you're not in conflict with the county order and state order, and then you got to make sure it meets legal sufficiency and those things. So that's what kind of takes a little bit of time. Contracts, no, 30 minutes an hour, like we got it done today. But these other orders, I mean, it takes a little time. I mean, counselor, I mean, I think you agree, it takes a little time. You have to do the research. We have to make sure it's not conflicting with anything else.
Yeah, and I think through the mayor, I think, Mayor, what you're asking is your premise is that the manager needs more authority because he needs and it takes time to get items to the city commission. And whether we're doing it because the manager requested it or whether we're doing it because it's going to the city commission agenda, we still have the same amount of work to do. So it doesn't, our work is not shortcut. There's no shortcut in our work because the manager would request it under authority he would have presumably, or because it's going to the city commission and we have to do work or review it. So for us, it's the same amount of work. It's just a matter of how you all want to deal with items and consider them, whether, and I think you've addressed some of those issues already.
Oh, so Madam Attorney, what happens if, let's say, Commissioner Bass and Commissioner Kelly and myself have 3 different items that we want to make sure, conflicting items that we want to get done in 24 hours? Well, not in 24 hours, in 30 minutes. Are you saying that your office will prepare all 3 items and put it on the agenda, and then we debate and discuss about it? That is, and you drop everything to do that. That is the best way to go about moving at a crisis time like this.
Now, I'm not suggesting that at all, and I don't think that would be likely. But if you did, let's say under certain circumstances, you'd have 3 items and they were conflicting. What we probably do is do one piece of legislation with blanks in it to address the issues where there was discrepancy, and let you all discuss those issues within a public meeting.
Okay. All right. That's your Commissioner Bass. I went through that so you have insight on difficulty it takes. And as the manager stated, every time we put something forward, they have to drop everything. They have to call. They have to rearrange their schedules, any meetings that may have had, any reports that they're working on, from Ms. Flores to IT to Pate to all the people that we see on this call today, have to pause everything they're doing in response to what's going on to address what we need as a commission, what we want as a commission. So just to give us the platform to debate. And then once we debate, then things can move. It takes a lot of time. And it takes time away from each of us. And I know some of you may be off from work, but I still do got a full-time job. Like, I still got to feed my family. I still got a lot of things that I got to do while leading this city, being on these calls with the mayors and commissioners and all this stuff, then trying to organize and get the data from staff to be able to communicate a proper message. And then we got to come to these meetings and have debates, and all the work that we've done it's up to the whim of the commission. And just like today, I took the time to go through, find out personally, because there's no one in the city that has taken the time, or anybody in the state of Florida that took the time to really analyze the numbers of cases in Opa-locka. Once it got those numbers, communicated to all the right parties. They tell us messaging. We got basically our messaging arm wasn't in existence. The manager did his analysis. He took time to figure that part out. He took time to speak to Melinda Miguel. I had to take time to meet with the manager, the attorney, and Melinda Miguel. They see the value of this. They took the time. He found somebody he can work and get. The attorney crafted a contract, called this person to come in and do a presentation so that we can at least understand what's going on. And based upon the whim of us, all that work we don't even want to hear it. We didn't even give opportunity for the manager, for the PR person to even express what was going on. that's the difficulty we're dealing with, y'all. Like, how are we going to respond to these issues under these circumstances? Like, and that's what I want from, like, I really want answers from y'all, because we kind of chained. Like, I can't really have these conversations. Matter of fact, with the PR, the messaging, I had other cities reach out and say, you know what, we would do the messaging. You know what, make sure you go online. They had mayors consult with me, say, hey, you got code red, make sure you do a message. They elected you as mayor. You are a singular position. The rest is a commission. And they said that you are the elected, the ceremonial, you are the leader of that city. The people who voted from you, they want to hear from you. So you make sure you utilize those channels and speak to your people. And I do a code red one time, and I get flack from people on this board. That's the only people that talk, that says the issue. Only people. Everyone else appreciate. Everyone else is like, yeah, okay, good. So what's next? What we got? But my fellow elected officials want to, I guess, ring me in from telling people about what's going on in Opa-locka. Like, y'all tell me how y'all want to move on this. Like, I'm very, very, like, I want to know. Please give me some guidance, y'all. If it's on you, give me the guidance that we need so I can be effective as a leader of this city and as a commission. Let me know what I need to do.
Mayor Paget?
Commissioner Bass.
Only because I'm the one who brought up the robocalls. I'm gonna address that part. I was not against you doing it. I would never be against you doing it because I know why you did it. But my issue was, and still is, I wish we had known, at least I wish I had known. So when my phone rang and the resident asked me a question, I would be abreast. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
And just say everything that I said on that robocall was communicated before.
Mr. Mayor.
Vice
Mr.
Mayor.
Mayor. I can't speak for my colleagues, but I can speak for myself. Thank you for getting the information out, one way or another. I think we all realize the seriousness of this pandemic and the need to get information out through whatever channels we can. I know for one, I've been, communicating with residents and reaching out through social media channels and whatever avenues I come across with residents. So applaud to you for doing that. And maybe it could have been done in a more diplomatic way where it was brought before the commission, or at least, because I wasn't aware of it. I hadn't even known that a robocall had went out. So this is the first time I'm hearing it. But again, thank you, for doing that. Maybe we could hear from the rest of the commission and see how they feel about, approaching these sort of public information matters in the future. Thank you.
So Vice Mayor Davis and Commissioner Bass, what you're saying is that before I say anything publicly, I need to call a meeting of the commission and let y'all know.
Mayor Paget?
Commissioner Bass.
What I'm saying is that it would have been nice if we had known it was gonna be done. You did not have to ask me permission. I don't have the power for that. I'm grateful that our residents got the information, but again, it makes me look stupid when a resident called me after you've made an announcement and I don't have an idea what the resident's talking about. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on, Mr. Manager. Was a communication sent out about the fact that we were moving with this, Mr. Manager?
Moving with what, Mayor?
The code red, PR, and all that.
No, the message didn't go out in regards to that.
Okay.
I understand it.
All right. So I will lend upon the manager and Mr. Grice and all those that communicate to share that. If that's the will of the commission, then moving forward, before things are being put out, please let folks know. Even though I've witnessed events put out that I had no idea about, flyers put out that I had no idea about, and the rest of this commission has no idea about. So I've seen actual events, flyers, meetings happening that's been going on before this COVID-19, and even the rest of the commission don't even know. So I ain't hear anybody talk about those, but it is what it is. If that's it is what it is. Commissioner Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been trying to get on for about 10 minutes. I appreciate you finally acknowledging me. I'm going to say two things and I'm going to leave because we've been on here a long time, in my opinion. I don't know what you want to call it, venting session or whatever. I want to suggest something. I'm still, and I'm not going to ever be in support who's outright giving the manager authority without coming to commission. That's where you're headed. So that's clear on my part. We voted that. That's a non-issue as far as I'm concerned. If you want to have, and I've seen it before when there's hurricane situations or financial issues before, if you want to automatically say that this commission is going to convene once a week, whatever day it is, because you all have these conference calls for the most part, certain days, early in the week, end of the week, whenever, and say to this commission, every Thursday at 6, we're convening a COVID-19 robocall or COVID-19 special meeting and or workshop because issues may need to be voted upon. You can do that. That puts us all on notice. For those kind of discussions that will deal directly with that in case there's something that comes up that requires voting. That's easily done. And you can have that already in motion so everybody knows to be aware once a week to have those kinds of meetings and or special meetings. I don't think anything comes up watching the county mayors, watching Broward, because now everybody's talking about reopening and some process. And as you're meeting and having discussion, nothing comes fly by night. There's discussion happening. Even when the mayor orders his orders, we still have to come at the commission because we have certain powers within our own jurisdiction that we can be more strict and or less stringent. So nothing precludes us from having a special meeting that we can already say on Thursday the 6th from now until whenever, just like we're doing the feeding with Feed South Florida. We shall convene in a meeting. And if all it needs is just bring information forward that you have come across or the managers come across that you want to disseminate to us and have discussion, get input, or if there's an item to be voted on, you can do it. That solves that problem. You got a weekly forum in order to communicate. I don't think anything's happening in such a vacuum that we need to just arbitrarily give you or the manager some authority to say or address an issue without this commission having input. You're the mayor, you can go on robocall, do whatever you want, you do that anyway. You know, I got calls too, but I understand how things work around here. So I'm just going to, you decided you wanted to go on, that's fine. I'm just saying to you from respect to this commission, if we want to have a discussion and or meeting and or update to make sure we're all on the same page with our messaging, just say it, you know, whatever day, every Wednesday, off Wednesday, every Thursday, because things may be changing that we need to meet and or vote on something, you could do that. And then if something comes up that requires the emergency, as the attorney and the manager said, they can turn around real quickly. We've done it in an hour. I don't think anything's happening right now that's going to require us in a vacuum of an hour, but certainly you can set it right now as the mayor and that's all of us now. Make ourselves available for a special meeting, not emergency, special meeting, and or workshop if it's just disseminating information for every Thursday. So you know we're going to have a forum to just discuss and deal with these issues as it relates to COVID-19, whether it be testing, whether it be masks, whether it be security, whether it be our finances that we're having an impact on because of not receiving revenue from gas taxes, and the impact it's going to have on the government and employees, whatever. You can have that. That can all be done in that setting. And since you're looking for ideas, that is my suggestion to you, that we follow that kind of structure. So we know at least once a week, we're going to have a meeting that's going to provide an update. So you ain't got to go through Mr. Grice, you have to go by Sunshine. And if something is more deeming that needs to be sent to us, then obviously the manager can disseminate information just like he did with this issue today about the public relation, just like he's done with other things. He can disseminate information based on being the manager that will not have a sunshine implication. So there's your answer, and there's your going forward, how you can just address that where the commission is fully abreast. And if we want to go on, or if you're going to go on and make a statement or go on because you want to do something or suggest that we all get together for something, but you got a forum once a week that you can dedicate to these issues. And I commit to say, I'm saying Thursday, only because it's kind of midway and won't impact commission meeting, that we have that dialogue. And if something comes up more necessary Monday, or something comes out that needs to be voted on to require a special meeting or emergency meeting, you still can do that. But that's what's going to be my suggestion anyway, before we got sidetracked, because that's what really needs to occur. We need to have this dialogue, whether it's with food, whether it's all these issues around COVID-19, including our finances, just dedicated to that and not a part of the regular commission meeting. So that's my suggestion to you, at 6 p.m., because you're right. You got to work. I still got to work. I ain't off from work either. I still have to work. I still got to take care of my family. So I understand that as well. But when we're elected by the people, sacrifice come with it. You already know that. So we have to deal with it. But I would suggest, and to the manager and to yourself, because you all are on these calls, I'm just going to recommend a Thursday 6 p.m. type meeting, whether it's a workshop, whether you got voting items, you can put on the agenda as such and address all those things that come up weekly basis for COVID-19. If something comes up that's an emergency that comes out of discussion that has to be addressed right away, you still have the ability, as Commissioner Bass said, to call an emergency. We're all available. We all can make ourselves available, especially if it's an emergency. So you want a suggestion? That is my suggestion to you. I think at this point, all of what we're doing now, quite honestly, we're all frustrated. I understand that, but at the end of the day, we all want what's best for the residents. So that's my suggestion to you. And I'm good with that for the night. I know all of us are passionate and whatever, but you're going down the same road. I'm very clear. I'm not ready to turn over the authority to the manager to make decisions because something coming down the pipe. I think anything coming down the pipe that is the emergency of life, health, and safety, as I already said, he can make a decision and come to the commission within 72 hours. That's already known and notated by law. So anything else that requires a commission input, he still has time. We're virtual now, so we can have a meeting. But that's my suggestion to you as the chair, because you're on these calls with various entities. Make it a part of our regular routine until this is over. It's like we're doing feeding. Everybody knows we do feeding now on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Make the meeting for us, workshop, whatever you want to call it, with that component for Thursdays or Wednesdays or whatever you want to do. So we have that going forward. That's my suggestion since you wanted one, and I'm going to end it like that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Madam Attorney, can we pre-plan emergency meetings without a agenda item?
I don't think that's what Commissioner Kelly is asking. I think he's asking for a standing special meeting that you might have every Thursday at 6.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, well, tell me, so emergency meetings, because I know we have a few forms of meetings. We have a regular commission meeting, we have a special commission meeting, we have emergency meetings and a workshop. And correct me if I'm wrong. Our regular commission meetings are by ordinance that we must have them 7 p.m. I think twice a month or something like that. Forgot what it is, or 11 times a year, something like that. Special meetings must give at least 24-hour notice, and they must address specific issues. And emergency meetings can be called within, I think, an hour after the manager has issued an emergency order. Please correct my understanding if I'm off, Madam Attorney.
Sure, I'm pulling up your code on special meetings, but with respect to the special meetings, if you had a topic where you had something about COVID-19, I could certainly craft it to make sure that it complies with the language in the code, but it's all going to be, the only reason you're having these meetings is related to COVID-19 issues. And so we could, make sure that you have language that would comport with that. If you give me just a moment, I'll be able to get your code up and tell you exactly what it says as to special meetings.
Section 2-44, a special meeting says a special meeting of the city of Opa-locka, so the city commission may be called either by a majority of the members of the commission, the mayor,
Yes, I'm
or
there.
in absence, the vice mayor or the city manager. Whenever a special meeting is called, a notice in writing signed by the official or officials calling the meeting shall be served upon the city clerk. The city clerk shall within 1 hour thereafter both give a verbal and written notice upon each member of the commission stating the date, hour, and place of the meeting and purpose for which the meeting is called. No other business shall be transacted at the meeting. At least 24 hours must elapse between the time the city clerk received the notice in writing of the call of the meeting and the time the meeting is to be held. So
Yeah.
right now, you're saying that in order to meet this thing, I have to send an email currently right now to Ms. Flores and ask her to conduct the meeting for COVID-19 on a weekly basis.
Yeah, this basically says that it can be called by either a majority of the members of the commission. So if you all decided right now that you wanted to vote to have a special meeting on until the COVID-19 crisis is ended, and I will give the clerk the language that will comport with this, but it will all be related to COVID-19, update on COVID-19 or, some special, and we can actually, have language that will, like if there's a specific issue that is related to COVID-19, then we'll consider this as coming under a majority of the members of the commission had already authorized it, and we can do it consistently with this, with this provision of the code, which would have the clerk within 1 hour thereafter you give she'd already have the notice, but basically it would meet it because it would be, she could, within 1 hour, no meeting business would be transacted at the meeting other than what it was called for. And at least 24 hours must elapse between the time the clerk receives the notice in writing of the call of the meeting and the time. And I guess what we could do is we will, I'll look at it. I'll work with the clerk to make sure the notice comports with what the intent is, if that's what you all want to do. But you don't necessarily even have to have every week Thursday meetings if you don't have business to cover. But if you do have business to cover, you all could leave that time available so that, you can produce the proper notice that would meet the intent. And so if it also talks about if after reasonable diligence, it is impossible to give notice to each commissioner, such failure shall not affect the legality of the meeting if a quorum attends. And so I think it leaves us some flexibility to, to be able to make sure that we work within the intent. But if you all left, I think if you left that time open, and then if the manager didn't have any business to bring, he didn't have it. But then if he does, then he could seek the support of a majority of the commission and just make sure that we follow the notice provisions.
That was very confusing.
Mr. Mayor?
I need a little more clarity on that, because as I said, these special commission meetings, like, they're for a specific purpose. And what Commissioner Kelly has offered up as a solution, and I'm in complete support of having weekly meetings if necessary, on a certain day, whatever it takes, I am in complete support to do. I want to make sure we are abiding by our rules and regulations. Based upon my understanding of the rules and regulations, yes, we can call a workshop and we can speak about anything at a workshop. But if we're going to take action, it needs to be in an emergency meeting, special meeting, and regular commission meeting. Emergency meetings are only called within 1 hour, and that's by the city manager. So it's not 30 minutes. Like, we gotta literally, the manager has to certify an order of emergency meeting, and everything has to be put in place, and then we have to do that. So using that option,
Well,
have these weekly meetings doesn't seem as though that's the proper way. Then you have a special commission meeting.
I just want to be clear, Mayor. If you kept your if you kept your regular meeting date, and you can decide whether or not it's necessary or not. And on the off weeks, if everybody kept Thursday 6 o'clock open, it says that a special meeting of the city commission may be called by either a majority of the members of the commission, the mayor, or in his absence, the vice mayor or the city manager. So it's not just the city manager. So what you would do is you would have the city manager, if he wanted to exercise his option to have a special meeting, he would then comply with the notice requirements on that off week that meet the provisions of this special meeting notice. So what I'm suggesting is that if you left it open, if everybody left that Thursday at 6 open on the off weeks, from your regular commission meeting on the Wednesday, first and third Wednesday, then you could still have an option to consider issues if issues come up. You don't have to have that special meeting date. And it may not even be the best thing to do if you don't have to, because then, but if everybody kept it open, the manager would then have, some leeway where he could call and make sure that a majority of the commission members would agree to holding a special meeting. And then those issues are only COVID-19 issues, because that's what they don't have to be, but we're talking about COVID-19 you all are considering. And so he would have a notice that meets whatever it is that he's trying to get to you all as issues to be considered.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Commissioner Kelly?
Let me be clear. What I'm suggesting or recommending, because you wanted suggestions, is not starting tomorrow, but next Thursday. This commission decided tonight that every Thursday at 6 p.m., we're going to have a special meeting related to COVID-19. That means anything that you and your discussion with fellow mayors, anything that the manager discussed that he feels needs legislation, can be brought forth at that time. Any discussion, any new ideas, any new initiatives related to anything COVID-19 can be discussed on those Thursday meetings. And as the attorney said, if there are no issues or nothing to meet, you can always not have it. But I'm saying you put it forward. And I'm only suggesting this from my experience when we were under financial emergency, where we had to meet as a commission quite often. One of the things that we did was have a standing weekly meeting that just related to financial emergency issues. So I'm suggesting that the commission, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. But I'm saying I said Thursday, it doesn't have to be Thursday, whatever date, at 6 p.m. We're having a special meeting of the city. It's already noticed out. So if something comes up, if you come to that meeting and say, I think based on my other mayors and what I've heard, we should do this, I should do this, I want to do this, I plan to do this. What are y'all thoughts? And or any of my colleagues have suggestions on what we should be doing or what has been changed. The manager has any suggestions or any legislation that he wants to proffer, we could vote on it. But we would have a venue and a dialogue specifically for COVID-19 issues. Because although we're talking about testing and masks and curfews right now, we're also going to get to the point to talk about revenues and financial stuff related to it as well. That is why I suggested a special meeting, not emergency meeting, but a special meeting that's already known, already out there advertised, and whatever the items that would need to be put on the agenda, that's not to be, they don't have to be, if I'm hearing the attorney correctly, specifically stated just because we're having a meeting. They have to be done prior to, but not a week out, because we don't put nothing out that quick either.
Well,
If I'm hearing correctly.
Madam
They would all be related to,
Please wait.
they would all be related to COVID-19. Whatever, I mean, she said she can craft the language so we could be able to meet. That's the only thing I'm suggesting. Not an emergency meeting, but a special meeting. And remember, we've done special meetings with workshops as well. So we have both of them in the same context. So you could do that. If it's just stuff that we need to discuss, we'll be discussing. If there's an item that needs to be voted on, that can be a part of it as well. That was just a suggestion. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor,
So, Madam Attorney, please wait. So I want to answer the question, because what Commissioner Kelly proposing, I get the intent, but I want to make sure that we're doing it based upon our laws. And based upon what I read in the special commission meeting, those are meetings in which we take action. Action that must be noticed at least 24 hours. We have opportunity to have workshops. So I know that we can do a workshop at 6 o'clock or 5:30 every Thursday, and then have space for a special commission meeting. Know that if there is something to present, we have a special commission meeting scheduled, let's say at 6 or a 6:30. But we have a standing workshop meeting that we will come together as a commission, bring together all of our thoughts, all the things that we've been hearing, all of our ideas about how to move the city forward in this crisis. The staff will come ready to give reports on Thursdays, once a week. And then we also make sure we block out time in our schedules to have this special commission meeting slot if the manager or the commission provides the 24-hour notice. Does that settle and cover everything, Commissioner Kelly? What you're saying?
That's about it. That's it.
All right. Ms. Weeks, is that within our powers to do?
yeah, I'm not suggesting that you have standing special meetings. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that everybody calendars, and if you have your calendar open where you know that can be a possibility, then we can notice it correctly pursuant to this section of your code. I'm not saying anything about workshops. You don't have to have a workshop to have the special meeting. I'm just suggesting that if you all do keep the time open, and if it's 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever it is that you all decide, then we can make the notice provision meet the, the intent of what you're saying right now, and make it meet the specifications of the code to give the 24-hour notice between the time the city clerk receives the notice, probably from the manager after speaking with the majority, and then the meeting to be held.
All right. 6 o'clock is pretty late. Can we do 5:30, y'all? All right.
I'm fine with that.
All right. So we'll have a 5:30 workshop every Thursday starting next week in regards to COVID-19. We'll bring up issues. Please, before 12 o'clock on Wednesday, if you have emergency orders or things you want to make sure gets on that meeting agenda, please make sure you submit that to the manager's office so he can submit it to the attorney and also the city clerk to prepare the agenda so that we can have a special commission meeting, let's say at 6 o'clock at that time. And we'll ask that the staff provide us with a regular update to the whole commission about the situation, the activities going on at that 5:30 meeting, including the attorney. And then if there's any issues we need to decide upon, we'll make that happen if a written notice of requested legislation is provided to the manager by within 24 hours.
Right. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to be clear that I am not saying that there is a standing special meeting. I don't think that meets your code. But what I am saying is that if everybody keeps that time open for a possible meeting that may be called by the manager, I believe that would meet your code. And if we do it within 24 hours, we will be able to meet, adhere to what your code says. So the manager, conceivably, the manager would know that everybody's available at that time. He would then call, three of you. He'll know what the issue is then. So it wouldn't be as simple as just COVID-19. It would be whatever the specific issue is. And he would then call the meeting if it's necessary. But what I'm suggesting is that you keep your calendars open so that he has that flexibility if necessary.
And what I'm calling as mayor of the city, and with the support of the rest of our colleagues, is a regular meeting at 5:30, workshop. That's what we're saying. So we look forward to seeing you there, Madam Attorney. And also making sure that we have the space and the attorney's office, Mr. Pate, Ms. Flores, and all the people and staff to be on call. If there's specific decisions of the commission that we want to make, we will try our best to get that to you by Wednesday at 12 o'clock as individuals, so that you have fully enough time to execute all the proper ordinances and resolutions, so that we can have a special commission meeting where we can make a decision that Thursday evening.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, just so I can be clear, you mentioned a workshop. So the workshop, you're not voting at the workshop, right? So unless you're talking about a workshop and then a special meeting, the meetings, you're not having standing. I don't think it meets your code to have standing special meetings, right? So if you're saying you want to have a workshop, that's different from what we've been talking about. And I just want to be careful and clear so that I'm not leading anybody down the wrong path and in giving legal advice. Your special meetings are those meetings that you would have a time set aside if it's necessary. Your workshops, if you had a workshop that started at 5:30, for instance, on every other Thursday or whatever, you could not vote. You can't vote for that. And you can't vote on any issues. But if the manager finds it necessary that he needs to have a special meeting, that's what I thought you all were talking about on the Thursdays. Not just having a workshop, because the workshop, you're not going to be able to vote on on the issues that you want considered if it's just a workshop and it's noticed as a workshop.
Could somebody else explain what I just said
Mr. Mayor,
to the attorney?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, Madam Attorney, I understand what you're saying. I have a standard meeting. What I was suggesting was we could have a workshop, okay, to deal with COVID-19 issues on Thursday. Make our schedules available. We have a workshop. If the manager deemed, because he knows we're going to be having this workshop on Thursday, if he deemed, or one of us or whomever deemed there's an issue that requires legislation, then that's only when the special commission meeting would kick in. Okay. I don't think it's an automatic that we're saying, we're not saying we're going to have a special commission meeting every Thursday.
Okay, so you're saying but you are saying you're having a workshop every Thursday.
I'm saying having a workshop just so we can stay up top, keep abreast of issue. But if the manager, the mayor, something's coming down the pipe, or one of my colleagues, something coming down the pipe that requires legislation, we would have the opportunity, because we know we're meeting, he could, schedule a special meeting, as you said, 6:30, whenever. But we're not saying right now we're automatically having a special meeting every Thursday, because there may not be nothing to vote on. But we do know we want to convene to get updated, to discuss any new ideas, any new initiatives that as a commission we might want to put forward, or here's something that the mayor has come across he might think that we ought to look at as a commission, or any one of us for that matter. We could do that in a workshop setting. We're not voting on that. But if there's something that is coming forward that has come out of these new orders or work orders, or the manager deems that needs some kind of legislative action, he would have an opportunity to do it on that Thursday, because we're going to be holding that date free.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor.
Can we conclude the mayor and commissioner reports and go?
Started that.
Huh?
It's concluded.
All right. Any official board appointments?
No,
Just
Mr.
one question, Mr. Mayor, to the clerk on that board appointments.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I don't see you.
Yes, you can proceed, Commissioner Kelly.
Oh, okay. To the clerk, if I can, Mr. Mayor.
You can proceed, Commissioner Kelly.
Okay. Since, Madam Clerk, since we're doing everything virtual, I had a couple folks ask me about appointments. I know there's some individuals, and then you got one at large. They can go online and still pull an application, but in terms of returning it, they will still have to come to City Hall to return it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Not necessarily. They can email it if they like. I mean, a lot of the new technology in terms of iPhones, you can scan like documents, and you know, if they're capable of doing that, they don't have to come to City Hall. But if they don't have those resources, then yes, they would have to drop it off.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So please, if you know of anybody, help them fill out the application so that we can fully staff our boards. All right. So with that said, no board appointments. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Vice Mayor Davis.
Second,
Don't rush, y'all. Don't rush.
Vice Mayor Davis, we need to look at that fish
I'm ready
tank.
for dinner.
Y'all have a good evening. All right. You have a take care, and thank all the staff for being on the call for this long. All right. You take care. City of Opa-locka. Be easy. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good evening.